Next slide, please. Mabuhay, fellow watchers, and welcome to Anaflix. Sit back, relax, and enjoy learning Anaflix. Before we discuss our topic for today, I would like to ask each and everyone, so kumusta kayo? Kumusta kayo? I hope that you are doing well. Since etong week na to is the final week, I know we are completing so many tasks, so many responsibilities, and I want to hear something from you. Can you type in your chat box how are you feeling today, or you may open your microphone if you want. Ayan. Ayan, we're getting some responses. Excited, happy. So, in terms of your academic responsibilities, natutugunan naman ba? Ayan, mukhang okay ang lahat. And natutuwa ako malaman na and as a college student, medyo mahirap talaga, I know, but I know that you can survive this semester. Kung kinaya nyo before, kakayanin nyo uli. Ayan. So, Miss Presenter, kindly click anatomy and physiology. Ayan. So I want to know how much do you know with endocrine system. So before we discuss, I want you to get a piece of paper and pencil or pen, and let us do the activity that is a simple activity na you can see on your presentation. So according to this instruction, in a scale of 5 to 1, 5 is the highest and 1 is the lowest. Write on a piece of paper your rate about how much do you know on each of the words given below. So for example, marami kang alam sa thyroid gland and you are confident to discuss something about thyroid gland. Siguro you can rate yourself 5 or 4, ganyan. So for each topic na makikita nyo sa baba, so yan, thyroid gland, hypothalamus, pineal gland, and so on and so forth. And then, kindly send this to our group chat. And later, sa pagtatapos ng ating discussion, we will use your own self-reflection kung nagkaroon ba tayo ng improvement as we conclude our session for this day. So, ayan. Next slide, please. Welcome to another virtual discussion episode. For today, we are about to learn the endocrine system using a movie-based learning discussion. So, hello, the is to be followed for today's lesson. On the previous topic, we learned so much from the discussants, the other systems of the body, like the integumentary system, the muscular, reproductive, and so on and so forth. So today's focus are the different endocrine glands, the hormones they produce, and their target tissues. So, ang magiging focus natin today is all about endocrine system. So we're not basically going to tackle yung glands per se. But of course, we're going to tackle the different hormones and the target tissues for us to be able to continue our daily functions. So, next slide. So, introduction to endocrine glands. So, basically, our discussion for today is divided into two. First is the discussion of the different endocrine glands. And then, tsaka pa lang tayo magpo-proceed sa different hormones that they are producing. So, ayan. So, meron na tayong konting glimpse about endocrine glands. And for us to formally start the discussion, next slide, please. So, the first, eto. I'm sorry, kindly go back to the last slide. So, bibigyan ko muna kayo ng konting background about endocrine system because it is very important to know, magkaroon tayo ng at least review kung ano ba yung endocrine system before we proceed on the discussion of its parts. So, ano nga ba yung endocrine system? An endocrine system is a series of glands that produce and secrete hormones in the body for many benefit or functions. Diba? From the word system, it is a set of glands working together as parts of a mechanism. Now, what is this mechanism ba? What is or are the functions of the endocrine system? The endocrine system exerts chemical control over the body to maintain internal environment with certain narrow changes or the what we call homeostasis. So very important pala ang endocrine system in maintaining the homeostasis. By what? By how? By producing different hormone needed for growth, maturation, reproduction, metabolism, and as well as human behavior. So for us to better understand this idea, so magsisimula na tayo sa different parts ng endocrine system. Next slide. First gland on the endocrine system is the hypothalamus of the brain. The hypothalamus contains a control center for many functions of the nervous systems. So mainly, ang hypothalamus daw ay part ng nervous system. So paano siya naging related sa endocrine system? Because it has a direct effect on the pituitary gland, which is historically, ang pituitary gland daw ay sinasabi na master gland of the endocrine system. So, um, ano ba yung tinatawag nating pituitary gland? Bakit siya naging connected sa hypothalamus? Historically, the pituitary gland is referred to as the master gland, gaya nga ng sinabi ko kanina, of the endocrine system, because it is actually controlling different secretions in the endocrine glands. However, ang nagko-control naman sa pituitary ay ang hypothalamus because the hypothalamus directly send messages to the pituitary for the pituitary to function and send signals to other systems, to other glands na meron sa endocrine system. So the hypothalamus sends neural and chemical signals to the pituitary by what? By means of peptide hormones. So later we will discuss kung ano yung peptide hormones secreted into the portal bloodstream that connects them. So peptide hormones basically serves a signal nga for the anterior pituitary to function. Hence, the hypothalamus controls the pituitary gland and is responsible for controlling the endocrine system. So in simple terms, para hindi tayo nalilito, hypothalamus control the pituitary and the pituitary controls the entire endocrine system glands. So ganun siya. So next slide. So second endocrine gland, of course, next to hypothalamus is the pituitary gland. The pituitary is a pea-sized gland that controls the function of most other glands and secretes a variety of hormones such as growth hormone and thyroid stimulating hormone. Kindly click on the presentation. I think nag-stop siya. Hello, am I still audible?
Yes po.
I think nag-freeze yung yung presentation. Ayan. Ayan, let's go back to the topic, the pituitary gland. The pituitary is, again, a pea-sized gland that controls the function of most other glands and secretes a variety of hormones such as growth hormone and thyroid-stimulating hormone. So later, we will further discuss kung ano ba yung growth hormone and thyroid-stimulating hormone. The pituitary itself is controlled by a small brain region called the hypothalamus, and it is divided into two main sections, the front or the anterior lobe and the back or the posterior lobe. So the anterior pituitary is responsible for creating and releasing over at least six different hormones that affect many direct bodily processes. The posterior pituitary, however, is responsible for the transmission of hormones originating from neurons located on the hypothalamic brain regions. So, ayun nga, kagaya ng sinabi ko earlier, the hypothalamus, the pituitary is being controlled by the hypothalamus. So, questions so far? Do you have any questions, clarifications?
None po.
Okay, thank you. So, please proceed on the next slide. So, another endocrine gland is the thyroid gland. So as you can see on the presentation, the thyroid is a butterfly-shaped gland that sits low on the front of the neck. Thyroid lies below the Adam's apple along the front of the windpipe, and it is responsible for the metabolism of the human body. So tumutulong daw ang thyroid gland for metabolism. By how? It secretes thyroid hormones which control the speed of the body's chemical functions. So yung thyroid hormones daw na to ay tumutulong para pabilisin or pabagalin ang chemical functions ng body natin. Eh, di ba ang metabolism is purely chemical functions because we are digesting food. So thyroid hormones are also responsible or has also direct effect on many vital functions such as the heart rate. So next slide. Ayan, do you have any questions muna pala? Do you have any clarifications? So
Wala
I
po,
think,
sir.
ayan. So dahil wala kayong tanong, ako naman ang may tanong. So I want each and everyone to get a piece of paper and a pen and let us watch a very short animation about the pineal glands, and I want you to write down all the important details that you may get while watching the video, and also do not forget to turn on the caption. So you can see the caption below on the settings. Turn on the caption so that you can maximize the use of it and you can be able to further understand the video. So let us proceed.
I'm the pineal gland located in the midline of your brain, a small endocrine gland, and now you know my name. I'm the pineal gland, a ductless gland that secretes a hormone called melatonin directly to the bloodstream. The pineal gland was given its name because it's shaped like a pine cone, as I do exclaim. You only have one of me inside your brain. This is my location, and any human explained. I sit directly in the midline of any human brain, secreting a hormone. Here I will tell you its name. Melatonin is a hormone I famously secrete directly into your body through your bloodstream. Melatonin has a job which is crucial, you will see, controlling circadian rhythms to wake or keep you asleep. I am made up of secretory cells, these are called pinealocytes. I do tell. Pinealocytes secrete melatonin within a 24-hour cycle that makes up one full day. I keep them flowing well. I secrete melatonin highest in the middle of the night to keep you asleep until the first daylight. Melatonin levels decrease appears when it's closer to dawn and drops down during the day so you don't yawn.
Ayan, after watching, I hope that you are able to write important details on the video. So I have a few questions. So first, it was mentioned on the video this particular hormone that the pineal gland is producing. Can anyone from the group um, tell me kung what is this particular hormone that pineal gland produce? Anyone? So ayan, we have some responses on the chat box. The melatonin. That's correct. But pineal gland is responsible for producing this particular hormone for what function? Anyone? Ano kaya yung particular function? Para saan kaya yung melatonin na pinoproduce ng pineal gland?
Sir, I believe for circadian rhythms po.
Can you kindly further elaborate kung ano ba yung circadian rhythm na ito?
Yes po. According po sa sa video, yung the circadian rhythms are the physical, mental, and behavioral changes that follow a 24-hour cycle po. Sir, I believe nakamute po kayo.
Thank you so much for that. That so your answer is correct. Melatonin is actually responsible for the day-night cycle na tinatawag natin or yung circadian rhythm nga. Yung melatonin kasi is secreting hormone. Ay, mali. The pineal gland kasi is responsible for secreting hormone kapag during daylight, hindi tayo inaantok and during nighttime, um, binabalance niya yung katawan natin for us to sleep well. So, yun yung tinatawag nating circadian rhythm. And also, um, meron dito sa video, it was mentioned na a very interesting fact na dito niya na-derive yung pangalan niya. So, kaya pala siya tinawag na pineal gland is because it is derived from what? Saan kaya siya kinugot? Anyone? Ayan, so we have
Sir,
responses on the chat box. Yes?
um, based on the video po, yung ano po kasi yung pineal glands is parang shaped pine cone. So, saan po ba to hinango? Sabi po dito, its name is derived from its shape, which is the pine cone, which is similar to that of pine cone or the Latin word tinea po.
Ayan, thank you so much for that. So, very accurate ang sagot na yan. And I love that insight na meron ka pang na-mention na other info, especially yung, what is that? Yung word?
Yes
Anyway,
po, sir.
so that's correct. Pineal gland was derived from the pine cone kasi nga, it is a size, it shapes like a pine cone. So, ayun lang yung about sa pineal glands. And later, we will further elaborate kung ano ba yung tinatawag nating melatonin. So, next slide. So, another important endocrine gland is the adrenal glands. So, adrenal glands, also known as the suprarenal glands, as you can see on the presentation, are small triangular shaped glands located on top of both kidneys. So it produces hormones that help regulate the human body's metabolism, immune system, blood pressure, and responses to stress. An adrenal gland is made up of two main parts. So as you can see on the presentation, we have here the cortex and the medulla. The adrenal cortex is the outer region and it's also the largest part of the adrenal gland. So it produces hormones that controls sugar balance, sex hormones, and salt balance. However, yung adrenal medulla naman is located inside the adrenal cortex in the center of the adrenal gland. It produces hormones involved in the fight or flight response. So, do you have any idea kung ano yung fight or flight response? Anyone? Ano kaya yung fight or flight response concept na meron dito sa adrenal medulla? Bakit kaya yan involved sa production ng hormones ng adrenal glands? Ayan. Do you have any insights kung ano yung tinatawag nating fight or flight?
Sir, ako po.
Yes, you are being recognized.
Sir, ano po, based on my own insights po about adrenal glands, the fight or flight response, or also known as the acute stress response, refers to a physiological reaction that occurs when we are in the presence of something that is mentally or physically terrifying po.
Yes, you got it right. So, 'di ba we have all that we have experienced that, 'di ba? Lahat naman tayo, that sudden panic and anxiety when something happens unexpectedly. All of a sudden, so we feel like we need to either run away or stand up and fight kapag nandun tayo sa situation na that happened unexpectedly or nakakagulat. So for example, um, nasa for example lang, nasusunugan kayo, ganyan, pero wag naman. So, di ba, meron tayong feeling of anxiety and panic and yung adrenal glands, responsible siya for secreting adrenaline. So, dito napapasok yung adrenaline para magkaroon ng sudden rush sa katawan natin to flight, di ba? To vacate that particular area since it is dangerous. So, yun. When we discuss the second part, which is the hormones, we are going to further elaborate yung hormone naman na sinesecrete ng adrenal glands. But for now, yung pinaka-structure muna ng adrenal glands yung itatakal natin. And recap lang, so yung dito sa presentation kasi makikita nyo, yung color yellow sa itaas ng liver, so that is the adrenal gland. Makita nyo yung yellow sa taas na lang. Ayun, so do you have any clarification as of now?
Wala naman po, sir.
Ayan. So, thank you so much for responding. Next slide. So, another important gland on the endocrine system is the pancreas. So, the pancreas, as you can see on the presentation, is located behind the stomach in the upper abdomen. It is surrounded by other organs, including yung naka-transparent, including the small intestine, liver, and spleen. It is spongy and about 6 to 10 inches long and is actually a flat pear shape or fish shape. Hugis isda daw ang pancreas. So primarily, it has two main functions. So first, a pancreas is also a digestive system in which it helps in digestion by releasing enzymes to, di- to, di- to, di- to digest proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. But since we are tackling endocrine system, let us focus dun sa nagagawa ng pancreas on the endocrine system. So ano kaya yung function niya? Pancreas consists of different islet cells that create and release important hormones directly into the bloodstream. So ano ba yung hormones na sinesecrete ng insulin? Do you have any idea? I believe you have an idea kung ano yung hormone na sinesecrete ng pancreas. Since this was previously discussed on the last topic about endocrine system then. Anyone?
Sir, ako po,
So ayan, we have answers on the yes.
um, sabi po sa last discussion po natin, sabi po is the pancreas is an organ that serves two vital purposes, which is to aid food digestion and to produce hormones that mainly serve to control levels of energy in the blood, which is the the insulin po. So,
Yan.
yung pancreas is nagpo-produce siya ng insulin, and then yung insulin na to is tumutulong para malaman natin o para ma-regulate yung sugar level po sa katawan natin.
Yes, so yung hormone mainly na pinoproduce ng pancreas, thank you so much for answering, you got it right. So yung insulin and glucagon. So ano ba yung purpose ng dalawang hormones na ito in the endocrine system? To maintain homeostasis of what? Of the blood sugar level. So 'di ba hindi kasi pwedeng masyadong mataas yung sugar level natin or masyadong mababa, or else we will have a disease, a very common disease na tinatawag nating diabetes. So yung diabetes kasi is caused by either masyadong mataas yung sugar level or masyadong mababa. So yung pancreas, mine-maintain niya yung equilibrium, yung homeostasis kapag mataas yung sugar level ng katawan natin, nagre-release siya ng insulin in which it lowers the sugar level, yung hormone ng insulin. However, kapag naman masyadong mababa yung blood sugar level natin sa katawan, nagre-release naman siya ng glucagon from the word gluca. Di ba yung glucose is simple sugar na malaking tulong. So para saan ba yung glucose? For energy production ng cells natin, as it was previously discussed sa ating cellular and molecular biology. So anyway, that's all for the pancreas. Let us proceed on the next gland ng endocrine system. So another important gland na nag-exist naman sa male is what we call the testicles. So also known as the male gonads, lie behind the penis in a pouch or skin called the scrotum. It is both a reproductive organ which produces sperm cell and an endocrine gland also which produces the hormone testosterone. So 'di ba, merong connection yung endocrine system, nakikita natin yung connections niya sa iba't ibang systems pa ng katawan natin. Like, for example, kanina yung pancreas, yung digestive. Ngayon naman, ito ay related sa reproductive system. So, nagpe-produce daw ng testosterone ang male gonads. And ano ba yung functions nito? The functions of the testosterone include growth and development of male gonads, of male reproductive organ, production and maturation of sperm, and as well as the deepening of voice. So, eto kung makikita nyo, yung nandito sa presentation, yung bilog na may color red sa loob, ito yung pinaka male gonad. And then, yung parang lining na makikita nyo dito sa labas, ayan yung parang nag-production niya ng testosterone habang naglalabas siya ng color blue na bilog-bilog. That is the testosterone. So, in-enlarge lang siya. So, ayan. Next slide. So, kung merong male gonad, of course, meron ding female gonad, yung tinatawag nating ovary. So, ovary is small, so you can see on the presentation, this is a small oval shape located on either side of the uterus. This is also known as the female gonad. So, ano naman yung pinoproduce ng ovary? So, as a reproductive organ, it produces egg cells, and as an endocrine gland, an endocrine organ, it produces two hormones, the estrogen and progesterone. So later we will further elaborate kung ano ba yung estrogen and progesterone. So next slide. So ayan, we already discussed the different endocrine glands. So at this juncture, we are going to focus naman yung different hormones na pinoproduce ng mga endocrine glands na ito. So introduction to endocrine glands. Ano muna yung tinatawag na, bago tayo mag-proceed sa different hormones, let us focus in general. Ano ba yung tinatawag nating hormones? Next slide.
Excuse me po, nakamute ka po, sir.
Sir, nakamute po kayo.
Hello, may audible?
Yes po.
Ayan. So, nawala ba ako kanina? Sorry. Ay, hindi naman. So, ayan. Quick recap. So, what is hormone again? Hormone, these are chemical substances na sinesecrete ng different endocrine glands or endocrine cells in order for us to perform in order for the body to perform different metabolic activity and to maintain homeostasis inside our body. So, next slide. Let us proceed on the different hormones. Ayan. So, meron tayong tatlong classification ng hormones. So, these are peptide hormones, steroid hormones, and the modified amino acids. So, mag-focus muna tayo sa first group of hormones na tinatawag nating peptide hormones. Next slide. Ayan. The first group of hormones are the peptide hormones, also known as the protein hormones or polypeptide. Peptide hormones are made up of chains of amino acids linked with peptide bonds forming polypeptides. And when even bigger, they form protein hormones. So they are hydrophilic. They are actually hydrophilic, which means they are water soluble, but they are, however, lipophobic, which means they are unable to cross the lipid membrane cells. So they bind on the receptor outside the cell or on the surface of the cell. As you can see on the presentation, so nag-bind siya sa receptor sa loob ng cells. And then, habang pumapasok siya, ayan, it initiates secondary messengers. Ngayon naman, ano naman yung secondary messenger? So, yung secondary messenger ay ginagamit to cascade when the hormones, like for example, glucagon and adrenaline, bind to receptors on the surface of the cell. So, ayun. Meron tayong examples ng polypeptides sa itaas, and we will discuss some of these on the next slide. Ayan. So the role of insulin in the human body. When food is ingested, as you can see, it travels along the digestive tract where it is broken its components in order to be absorbed in the bloodstream. One such important nutrient is what we call the glucose, a simple sugar. So yung glucose get absorbed by the stomach and intestines and then enters the bloodstream. It travels through the circulation to all the body cells as you can see on the presentation. So ano-ano ba yung nagiging target ng hormone na insulin? So ayan, specifically liver, muscle, and the adipose tissue or yung fat. So once absorbed into the bloodstream, glucose circulates, causing the blood sugar level to rise. An increased level of blood sugar send a signal to the pancreatic beta cells which responds by secreting the hormone insulin into the circulation kapag mataas na yung glucose. So insulin is necessary for glucose to reach and be used by several important target tissues throughout the body. So ano-ano nga uli yun? Like for example nga, yung liver, yung muscle, and the adipose tissue or yung tinatawag natin na fat. So basically, insulin is necessary to keep the blood glucose level stable inside the human body. So ayun. So at this part naman, pinapakita yung binding to the insulin receptor. So insulin is, glucose enters the cell through a process called facilitated diffusion or yung makikita nyo nga sa presentation, that is facilitated diffusion. And ginagamit ang glucose for us to perform different activities since glucose is used for energy production. So any question so far about insulin?
Wala naman po, sir.
Thank you so much for that. So let us proceed on another important hormone in the body. So magfo-focus naman tayo on FSH, LH, and PRL. So ano-ano ba itong tatlong ito? Sorry. Oxytocin pala yung nasa presentation. I'm sorry. Balik, balik ka sa slide na next yata. Ayan, next slide. Ayan. Mag-focus naman pala tayo sa oxytocin. So ano ba yung oxytocin? So, oxytocin basically ay tinatawag itong love hormone. So bakit kaya tinatawag na love hormone ang oxytocin? So we're going to discuss what is oxytocin and why is it considered the love hormone? So well, oxytocin is a neuropeptide, which means it is a short chain polypeptide which is used in neurotransmitter, relaying a signal from one neuron to another. Oxytocin is released by the pituitary gland and binds to the oxytocin receptors, which can be found on the cells of the brain, as well as the rest of the body. So oxytocin is oxytocin is crucial during the delivery of a baby. So as you can see, it helps the cervical dilation and contractions. Then also during breastfeeding, oxytocin gets released in response to a baby's sucking or even a baby's cry as part of the reflex that allows milk to be let down from the nipples. But oxytocin affects everyone, not just mothers. It promotes generosity and trust, decreases fear, and even helps people to recover from negative social interactions. So, oxytocin is also incredibly important for pair bonding, like in a romantic something to do with the feelings involved, especially in love. So, kaya siya tinawag na oxytocin is a love hormone. So, malaki yung nagiging ambag niya for feelings involved emotions. But also, oxytocin plays an important role in platonic relationship. For example, oxytocin level rise in human and dog after they spend time or petting or playing together. So however, for all its rosy effects, oxytocin have some thorns. So it promotes bonding between people with shared characteristics, meaning that it make us favor people that we like and vice versa. However, pag hindi naman natin gusto, we tend to not like that person. So responsible din yung oxytocin for that kind of response natin. So basically, more on feelings talaga yung oxytocin. Kaya siya considered na love hormone. Ayan. So, do you have any questions? Clarifications?
Wala naman po, sir.
Thank you so much. Ayan. No response then on our chat box. So, let us proceed on the next slide. So let us proceed on the steroid hormones. So what is a steroid hormone? So the second group of hormones are the steroid nga, also known as the lipid-derived hormones as they come from lipids. Examples of steroid hormones include, so ayun nga, cortisol and aldosterone, like yung ipapresent natin mamaya. And steroid hormones also share. Ayan, as you can see on the presentation, 'di ba? Kung kanina yung polypeptide, it binds to the receptor outside the cell or on the surface of the cell. Ang kaibahan naman ng steroid, it binds inside the cell. So kanina, 'di ba nakita niyo pumasok yung steroid hormones, yung color blue, pumasok siya agad directly bago siya nag-bind sa receptor inside the cell. So yun yung kaibahan nila pagdating sa hormone receptor complex. So, pag polypeptide, sa labas siya, sa labas ng cell siya, nagbabind sa receptor pag steroid sa loob. So, ayun nga, kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, here are some examples of the steroids. The estrogen, testosterone, cortisol, and so on and so forth, as well as the progesterone. So, iisa-isahin natin yung different steroid hormones. So, next slide. Ayan. So, mag-start muna tayo sa estrogen. Estrogen is a type of hormone secreted by the ovaries. They are active in regulating the development. I think nag-pause yung PowerPoint. Ayan. Thank you. So, they are active in regulating the development and function of the female reproductive system as well as the mammary tissue during during pregnancy and lactation, and also as a female go along with the teenage days or yung puberty nga. So estrogen levels are especially high during the years of from monarchy to menopause and are controlled by regular psychological processes like the menstrual cycle and pregnancy. So, as you can see on the presentation, they bind to proteins called receptors located inside the nucleus. So, these receptors are large molecules with highly specialized areas that regulates the substances combined to them. So basically nga, yung estrogen is responsible for menstrual cycle and pregnancy. And also, a very significant purpose ng estrogen is that our it generates the endometrium in female, in which it is responsible for generating and thickening the layer of membrane in the uterus that serves as the binding site for our zygote. So, tumutulong siya for binding site ng zygote once na nagkaroon na or nag-occur ng fertilization in the uterus. So, more on reproductive function yung purpose ng estrogen. So next slide. So mag-proceed naman tayo sa progesterone. So kung merong estrogen sa ovary, meron ding progesterone. They are inseparable. So progesterone is also a steroid hormone. That means it is formed from cholesterol and it is lipid soluble. It passes across the cell membrane and it binds onto protein receptors inside the target cells, kagaya nung illustration kanina. So now, progesterone is stimulated by the luteinizing hormone or yung LH that is released by the anterior pituitary gland. So, as our amount of LH in the blood increase, the amount of progesterone release is also increases. So, on the previous recorded sessions, it was tackled kung ano ba yung purpose ng luteinizing hormone. So, progesterone is a sex hormone that plays a key role in the menstrual cycle. It is also responsible for breast development and preparing the body for breastfeeding. So progesterone helps to prepare the body for pregnancy by stimulating glandular development and the development of new blood vessels. This provides a good environment for implantation by the fertilized egg. So, magkatuwang yung progesterone and estrogen when it comes to the development nga dun sa implantation ng fertilized egg. So, next slide tayo. So, another important hormone is the testosterone, as was mentioned earlier, that testosterone is produced by the male gonads. So, it all starts here, according to the presentation. The hypothalamus is the decision maker. It puts in a request for how much testosterone should be produced. So, yung hypothalamus sends message to the male gonads as to how much testosterone should be produced. And then, as the message go along, so makikita natin dito, yung different facts. Ano ba yung main source muna ng testosterone? Yung male gonads. So, ano-ano ba yung purpose ng testosterone? Una, yung sperm production. Meron tayong tinatawag na um, sperm fertilization. So, yung sperm production is a never-ending cycle, a never-ending job that requires a steady supply of testosterone. So, kung kulang ang testosterone or basically walang testosterone na napaproduce ang male, so doon na yung papasok yung konsepto ng yung parang nababaog in Filipino term, 'di ba? The male is unable to produce sperm cells kapag walang testosterone na napoproduce sa katawan or yung sperm production. So, genital formation. Testosterone helps on the growth and development of the male reproductive system. So, testosterone is also responsible for the libido or yung development ng sexual desire, yung na-topic natin sa ating development ng so ayun. So also, yung testosterone is also responsible for the behavioral traits. So yung pagbabago, yung maturation na tinatawag as the male undergoes puberty stage. So responsible din ang testosterone for the growth of the hair, the body hair, yung development ng muscle, yung enlargement of muscle, and so on and so forth. So, tumutulong din pala ang metabolism for fat metabolism. So, and as well as, malaki din yung nagiging contribution ng testosterone sa bone density. Di ba nga, according to the previous discussions on the skeletal system, mas mabigat yung um, bone ng males kaysa sa female. Bakit? Kasi malaki yung nagiging contribution ng testosterone for bone density. Eh, yung testosterone is only evident sa male and wala nun sa female. So, yung estrogen and progesterone din naman, I believe it is also responsible for bone density but hindi siya ganoon ka-dense, hindi siya ganoon nagpapabigat ng bone ng sa female. So, ayun, yun ang so that is the function that are the function of the testosterone inside a male body. So next slide. So yung the third group of hormones naman are yung tinatawag nating amino acid derived hormones. More specifically, the amino acid tyrosine derived hormones. So, all hormones in this group are made up of from the amino acid tyrosine. So, meron siyang dalawang groups. Ito yung unang group, meron siyang similar properties ng hormones that are derived from the peptide. And yung other group naman, meron naman siyang similarities sa steroid hormone. So, namomodify siya. Hindi lang siya basta amino acids alone. Minomodify siya and na-accumulate niya yung characteristics na meron sa peptide and characteristics na meron sa steroid hormones. So, next slide. So, examples of modified amino acids are the T3 and T4 hormones. So, these hormones are produced by the thyroid gland. So, T3 and T4 travels into the bloodstream to react almost every cell in the body. So, the hormone regulates, so ano ba yung purpose ng T3 and T4? The hormones regulate the speed with which the cells or metabolism work. So T3 and T4 are responsible for metabolism. For example, paano ba natin siya ma-relate dito? Kapag ka masyadong mababa yung T3 and T4 level, dito na tayo nagkakaroon ng excessive weight gain or yung obesity na tinatawag. Yung mabagal yung process ng metabolism natin kaya tumataba tayo kasi mababa yung T3 and T4 hormones natin. However, sa kabaligtaran, pag masyado namang mataas yung T3 and T4 hormones, na mabilis yung metabolism natin, dito na papasok yung kahit kain tayo ng kain, hindi tayo tumataba. So yun yung explanation kung bakit merong ganong klase ng idea na nag-e-exist sa sa isang human body. T3 and T4 hormones, as you can see in the presentation, are also responsible for muscle and digestive function. So yun nga yung metabolism. And also, responsible din siya sa heart rate. Kapag masyadong mababa yung T3 and T4 levels natin, the heart rate is also slower than the normal. And kapag ka naman masyadong mataas, masyado ring mabilis yung heart rate. So, yung thyroid glands naman, specifically yung thyroid glands, nagre-release siya ng exact amount only ng T3 and T4 lang for the human body to maintain the equilibrium or magkaroon ng tamang daloy ng metabolism as well as the heart rate or yung pulse rate sa katawan natin. T3 and T4 hormones are responsible for maintaining homeostasis of that. So, next slide. So, another important hormone naman under modified amino acids are the melatonin or yung kanina nakita natin sa presentation. These are produced by the pineal glands. So, melatonin is a particular hormone that the body produces in response to the darkness, and it helps with the timing of the circadian rhythms. or yung 24-hour internal clock natin sa katawan. So, being exposed to a light can block the melatonin production. So basically, kapag ka na-expose tayo sa liwanag, yung melatonin production nagiging mababa lang siya, causing for us to stay awake in the morning. And kapag naman masyado ng madilim o nagkakaroon tayo ng response to darkness, yung pineal glands nagpo-produce ng mas madaming melatonin for us to feel sleepy. And actually, sleep well at night. So basically, yung melatonin regulates the night and day cycle in the human body. So that's for the melatonin. And next slide. So another important hormones in the human body is the serotonin. So according to the slide, the intestines and the brain produce the serotonin. So yung intestine and the brain yung nagre-regulate ng production ng particular hormone na to. This is also known as the happy chemical as it impacts every part of the human body from the emotions to the motor skills. So kaya siya happy chemical pag super active tayo, ganyan, masyadong expressive yung emotions natin. Serotonin is responsible for that. Serotonin is considered as a natural mood stabilizer. It's the chemical that helps with eating, digesting, sleeping, moving, like like other modified amino acids. Serotonin also helps in the reduction of anxiety and depression, healing wounds, and maintaining the bone health. So basically, yung ang serotonin natin ay nagiging responsible siya para magkaroon tayo ng maayos na daloy ng mood or yung tinatawag nga natin na mood stabilizer. So yung as this particular chemical is released, na maintain yung balance natin. And kapag ka masyado tayong feeling ng nalulungkot, ganyan. However, yung serotonin nagpo-produce, ay yung brain and intestines natin ay pinoproduce itong serotonin for us to reduce the feeling of that anxiety and depression. So, do you have any clarifications as of now?
Wala naman po, sir.
Thank you so much for that. So sa chat box, thank you so much for responding. And next slide. So, ayan. So, I want to, to know your um, thoughts about for today's discussion. Diba, earlier, we were able to answer ngayong self-evaluation ng you're going to rate 5 to 1, ganyan. And you're going to go back to that paper and also, and yung you're going to rate yourself naman after the discussion. So for now, magkaroon muna tayo ng online self-check evaluation. So from 4, 3, 2, 1, I want you to reflect on yourself kung how much knowledge have you acquired from our discussion. So ayan, we're getting responses on the chat box. Next slide. Ayan, so for the exit card, where you are going to mention 3 terminologies that you remember, 2 terminologies that you cannot forget, and 1 terminology that you can describe. So next slide. And finally, for our post-assessment, at the end of the lesson, a post-assessment will be given to the student to evaluate their understanding. The stated post-assessment will be executed using a Google form. So this will be posted in our classroom. And you're going to reflect, number 1, in this lesson, we learned about. Number 2, as a future educator, I can use this knowledge too. And number 3, I can apply my learnings in real life situations. So, ayun. Next slide. Ayan, so thank you so much for participating in our online session for this day, and I hope you learned something.